Now I can cover off some penetrations through the concrete deck. If you've worked with ICF construction before, you know that you need to make sure you have sleeves and block off openings before placing concrete to make sure you don't end up having to drill the concrete later, which can be very expensive and time consuming. The principle applies here. Some pre-planning is required to make sure all the penetrations are in the correct location, the correct size, and you have enough of them to run whatever you will need to run once installing HVAC, plumbing, electrical, etc. These images show the ideal location for small penetrations through Amdeck. You can see that they fully clear the concrete joists, the metal or wood joists. This is what you should strive for. Here you see less than ideal locations, but still acceptable. You can place the sleeves right up against the concrete joists as long as they don't interfere with the joist cross-sectional core by reducing its thickness or interfering with the rebar placement. The wood or metal joists can be cut substantially, with the caveat that they would need additional support in these locations. This slide shows what not to do with penetrations. It is best to avoid these conditions. In theory, this can be done, but a structural engineer would need to approve or provide instruction for these specific locations. It should be easy to avoid these types of situations with small penetrations. This is not applicable to most single-family residential homes and is targeted towards multi-unit residential and commercial construction. For those sectors, fire-resistant assemblies are part of the code requirements, and any penetration must be properly sealed. The main aspect of a fire stop detail is to ensure to have fire stop material. Many times it would be a sleeve of mineral wool insulation and a smoke seal at the top. This ensures that the entire assembly is rated for the particular fire-resistant rating. Medium-sized openings can be accommodated in between the metal joists only. Their width is limited to 14 inches for the Amdeck Pro and might require additional rebar around the opening depending on its size. Amdeck Eco allows for a 10.5 inch wide opening between its joists. And again, it might require additional rebar around the opening depending on its size. Large openings such as stairs or mezzanines require structural support at the edge with beams, walls, columns. In this example, steel beams provide the edge support and they rest on a round HSS post. When looking to run plumbing or electrical horizontally, Amdeck Pro has openings that allow up to a 3.5 inch diameter pipe to fit. The smaller openings in the form can be used for wiring. Amdeck Eco is solid and does not have the same kind of functionality and would require the pipes and or electricals to be partially buried in the foam or run fully underneath it. It is possible to cut some of the foam and partially embed plumbing pipes into it. This is especially true when trying to run something perpendicular to the wood joists. When running on the underside of Amdeck, it is important not to go deeper than 2 inches since that's when the concrete joist starts and it should not be compromised. The top of the Amdeck forms can be trimmed away with a hot knife to allow the pipes to be inset. The most ideal configuration for running utilities with Amdeck is to use bulkheads or, in the case of commercial and institutional construction, drop ceilings. This methodology allows the most flexibility in maintaining proper slopes for pipes as well as their correct location in the floor above without having the need to carve out foam, spray foam parts back in place, etc. Here we have a few examples of how some projects in the past have tackled how to deal with penetrations when using Amdeck system. It is important to go over the mechanical drawings and understand what is needed, where it's going, where it's coming from. This will allow the installer to implement it in the best way possible. When using Amdeck as a floor system, it is highly recommended to incorporate a small vertical shaft into the layout of the house to allow it to make it easy to run plumbing or HVAC.